Hey, what's up, guys? All right, so I'm on my drift build, and so ever since I bought the car, there's been an oil leak, and it's been slowly dripping. And I read the rules to be able to go to an event, and they said if it was dripping, then they wouldn't let me on. I was afraid I didn't want to have to pay for the entrance fee and then them not let me on, because that would really suck. I talked to one of my buddies. He said unless it's a steady drip, they'll let you on. But I kind of want to take care of it just in case. But I don't want to spend a lot of money on this engine at all because it's planning on going out. I did notice, if you take a look over here, when I was checking it out down here, all over here was oily. I had cleaned this all off, took it for a spirited drive, and it was spitting oil over here. And then I took it and I looked under here, and all under here was all gunky and nasty. So what I believe is it's the front seal. And this isn't, too hard to replace. I'm probably gonna have to remove the fan. I still have the fan shroud, but I want to get the pulley, the crank pulley bolt loose, and then I'll get the crank or the fan, and then I'll loosen all the belts, take the belts off, and get the pulley out. All right, to get the crank pulley loose, I put it in 5th gear, went down here, got a 27, and just ranked my foot on, pushed it until it got loose. And taking a look at how much space it is, quite close to the fan. All right, we're gonna try this without taking the fan on first. So let's see, let's come up here. You have the alternator. You have the bolt that, where's my finger? You got the bolt right here that holds down once it's tight, and the bolt there to let it slide. So you gotta loosen that, and you loosen that, and then the alternator will slide. You get the bolt off. After you loosen the top 2 bolts up here, just loosen that one a little bit, and then you should be able to just push the alternator over, loosening up the belt. Looks like I'm gonna need a new belt as well. Kind of sucks, but yeah, these are probably pretty old. That's the alternator. Take note the order that the belts are on. So you can see the closest belt to the engine goes down and around onto this power steering pump, or the AC compressor, sorry, AC pump. Up here, the very front one goes to the power steering pump. The middle one goes to the alternator. The middle one only goes to the alternator to the crank pulley. The AC one comes around this pulley, around the crank, and then back around up here, back around the AC. The power steering, the very front one goes around the crank, obviously, around the power steering, and then around the fan one. So make sure you keep those and track, so when you put them back on, you'll know which one to put on first. Same as the alternator is for the power steering pump. You have a bolt right here to loosen, if it'll focus. You have a bolt right there to loosen the tensioner, and then you have the tensioner that's further up on there. Then you have a bolt that's in through the hole, so if your pulley's not lined up, just grab your crank pulley and take it out of gear and turn it until the hole lines up with the bolt. You loosen that up a little bit, loosen that bolt, and then get the tensioner. Tensioner is, it's the same as this bolt up here. Just loosen that, and then you'll be able to get that belt off as well. So have the alternator belt off, have the AC belt off now, or power steering belt off. And to get the AC belt off, you have this tensioner here, and underneath you're going to loose it, and this is going to raise up, and we'll be able to take this belt off. Alright, for loosening the AC, loosen this front bolt on this pulley, and then loosen the tensioner, and it'll slide right on up, and then you can take it off. And the way I like to check is turn the belt inside out. This one's starting to get a little dry. I probably could go ahead and change this now. Then there's the alternator one, where you could clearly see cracks. So I'm definitely going to need to change this one. And this one's a Nissan one. Looks like it, I mean, with the AT you'd assume automatic transmission, but this might have been the the original belt. I mean, that would be crazy. You know, it's alright, so we'll change 2 belts. Alright, I just got back from O'Reilly's. I picked up 2 new belts, the alternator belt and the AC belt. And I rented the crank pulley puller so I could get off the pulley, their harmonic balancer. Alright, I am wanting to take off this harmonic balancer pulley, whatever it is, and I am not seeing any holes, so I probably need to take these bolts out. But if you look at how wet that is. That just telling me that, yep, the front seal is leaking. Once I got all these bolts off, see this is the there's the AC pulley. So take this bolt, take that bolt off. And the AC pulley will come off. Then you have the main harmonic balancer. So I got the crank pulley on, and I would just do yourself a favor, because you see how much space. If you take this fan off, you have so much more space, but I already got it going, so I can go ahead and get this off. Alright, so I got the harmonic balancer off. If you look up here, got some oil, and I cleaned some of it off, but you can still see it's kind of built up there. And the front main seal is this black thing right here. Next is to get that off. I'm going to clean it down with some rags first, get it all cleaned up. So the old seal actually doesn't look too bad. Now, it might be dry in some areas, but it was definitely not on or leaking, because all around the crankshaft area right around there was dripping oil. So we're going to try to get that fixed, put on the new one. Alright, just so we don't confuse people, we got our new gasket, and that is the outside side that goes toward the pulley, and that is the inside that goes toward the engine. So it'll go on, sit like that. Alright, so what I did is I slipped it on, put the top end first, just so it went in a little bit further. That way, when I just kind of, I know normally you get a socket and you hammer it down so it goes nice and even, but if you do it, because it also has metal in it, if you just do it a little bit at a time, going around, it gets nice and flush, and it doesn't need a lot of force, just a little bit of force. That should be good. Now, don't forget that your crank is keyed and your harmonic balancer is keyed when you go to put it back on. So if you look over here, you can see it's keyed right there. Alright, so when you get it back on, make sure you line up the slot, put the slot on the crank, get it, push it on, and kind of wiggle it forward, push back and forward and up and down and push to kind of get it started. Then you can get your crank bolt, and you can bolt it to pull it back down some. That's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I torqued down as much as I could the pulley without the AC pulley attached. It got tight, so I figured I'd loosen this up, put these bolts on. You got to fit it up in there and start one bolt, and then I'm going to get the rest on. These are not very tight, just a little bit. I mean, they're really small bolts, so if you torque them down, they're just going to snap. So just get them a little bit tight, and then I'm going to put back in the crank pulley bolt, and make sure that you put it back in gear when you're torquing it down. And I guess it's what, like 108 or 115 foot-pounds. I'm just gonna put some good old pressure on it and get it as tight as I think it should be. Once you get the crank pulley bolt tight, or use your torque wrench and torque it down, once you get that, it's just a matter of putting back on the belts. I already told you what order they are, so I got these down. What you'll need to do is use the torque to torque them, or the tensioner to tighten them down, and then tighten down the other bolts. So like this one, I'll tighten this one down, and then I'll tighten that bolt so it stays. And same thing up there for the power steering pump. So I got all the belts on, and I'm running, and now I'm just running it with the AC on, checking it for any leaks. As soon as it gets up warm temperature, I'll check underneath, see if there's any leaks. If there's no leaks, then I'll check the fluids, and then I'll go for a drive and then check the leaks again. As you can see, changing the front main seal, pretty easy. I didn't even have to take off the clutch fan, and that's it. Took about 2 hours, 2.5 hours of actual work besides driving back and forth to the parts store. All right, that's all for today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.